Andy Emilio here with ES News. We're covering Conlon and his pro debut coming straight out of the Olympics, Madison Square Garden, St. Patrick's Day, and we're covering Triple G, Danny Jacobs in the big arena right here at MSG. And I wanted to take some time to talk to you guys about welterweights, 147, the welterweight division. My top 10, the ES News top 10. Let's go down the list. Let's break it down. First we have on my list, and keep in mind this is my list, and the way I rated the welterweights wasn't by standing or accolades. So if you have a belt, if you don't have a belt, this is just strictly who I think are the best welterweights, regardless of their resume, etc. Just giving the eyeball test, who's strong, who has the best technique, who hits the hardest, best defense, etc. Let's start off. My number one welterweight till this day, Kell Brook. 147, his only loss at 147, he's undefeated. His only loss is to Triple G, and Triple G can never put him down. So I got to put Kell Brook at number one. He defeated Shawn Porter. He's physically one of the biggest welterweights out there. Probably the only welterweight as big as him or bigger is the guy I have at number two, which is Errol Spencer. Errol Spencer is probably going to be the guy after this Kell Brook fight that I'm going to have as unbeatable for a long time. Too big, too strong, too fast, too sharp, too everything. The guy could probably campaign at 54 and even 60 and be a threat to a lot of those guys up there. Once him and Kell Brook get into that ring, I believe Kell Brook's the only guy who can maybe beat him, but it's really a 50-50 toss-up fight. So those are more like my 1A, 1B. Third, at a slightly lower rank, but still dangerous to any of these guys, Keith Thurman. Keith's managed to pull a very impressive resume throughout these last couple fights. I mean, he had the Shawn Porter fight. People thought Shawn won, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. He has a win over Shawn Porter. He now has a win over Danny Garcia. He got Diego Chavez when he was relevant. Bundu when he was undefeated. Robert Guerrero when he was still the ghost, when he was still held to that degree. You know, you got to give Keith Thurman his respect, and we've seen Errol Spence shaken up before, so we know if any of those fights were to happen, Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence or Keith Thurman versus Kell Brook, that we could have a big fight in our hands. And the only thing that's an asterisk but makes him an exciting fighter as well is the body shots. We've seen Keith Thurman be hurt, so we know that there's a quote-unquote Keith Thurman kryptonite out there, but at the end of the day, that's what makes him an exciting fighter. Number four, I have Danny Garcia. Nobody was super impressive in that fight. Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman, those were two guys who were pretty equally matched. I mean, the way I viewed it, Keith Thurman basically edged it out. But a lot of people had it either a draw and, you know, not a small because they pretty much voiced it. A lot of writers and other boxers had Danny Garcia winning too. So I got him at my number four. Number five, Shawn Porter. And the only reason he's at number five is because he's lost to Kell Brook and he's lost to Keith Thurman. Otherwise, I put him right there with Danny Garcia and with anybody, honestly. But he's on the smaller side of the welterweights, but he is physically strong. Shawn Porter's one of my favorite fighters. It's a pressure fighter, just puts it on you, and the division is just so stacked. But Shawn also has probably one of the best chins in the division. You guys saw the Keith Thurman fight. Wobbled, maybe. Down, never. Got to give respect to Manny Pacquiao. What is he doing right now? We don't really know as far as him fighting relevant 147 fighters. But at the end of the day, you have to still give it the eyeball test. He did defeat a very relevant Jessie Vargas. Jessie Vargas has only been beaten by other elite fighters, Tim Bradley and Manny Pacquiao. So at the end of the day, we don't know where Jessie stands with the other elite 147-pounders until he gets in the ring with them. Under Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley. These guys are on the other side of top rank, so it's hard to really gauge how good they are. And really beautiful ring girl just walked by. It's really hard to gauge how good they are because we haven't been able to see them. Hopefully we get Tim Bradley in the mix with, you know, a guy like Shawn Porter or something. I think that could be a really exciting fight. At number 8, we have Jessie Vargas. Like I said, Jessie has a really impressive win over a guy who would be on this list if he won, and that's Saddam Ali. Jessie Vargas knocked out Saddam Ali and really showed the world that he was at the elite welterweight level. He's only lost to other elite welterweights. Tim Bradley, who's only ever lost to Manny Pacquiao, and Jessie Vargas lost to Manny Pacquiao, and it wasn't, you know, he didn't steamroll him. He didn't beat Jessie up. you know? So at the end of the day, you could still hold Jessie very high regard. My number 9 is Amir Khan. This is strictly off of Khan's speed, just being head and shoulders above everybody else in the welterweight division. Yes, he's been knocked out. We know he has chin problems, but at the end of the day, are there 10 other welterweights who are better than Khan? It's hard to tell. At number 10, I have an honorable mention. Now, this was really hard to go through because the welterweight division is so stacked. I have Felix Diaz, who, in my opinion, was robbed when he fought Lamont Peterson, and Chris Algieri, if he continues to campaign at 147. Chris Algieri also has only lost to elite welterweights. And we're talking Manny Pacquiao, a legend and all-time great, and he lost to Errol Spencer, the guy who's going to be the biggest name in the welterweight division very soon. Adrien Broner, if he decides to campaign at 147, I'm not really sure where he's at, 140 and 147. And the same thing with Granados. I think Granados can fight with the best of them at 147. These guys are all in a 10-way tie with each other. Adrien Broner and Andre Berto. Definitely fights at 147. I have to keep him a little bit off the list just because the resume hasn't been impressive as his earlier years. But the win over Victor Ortiz, that was more of a, that was more of a gimme fight because people really didn't want to see the rematch. But Victor Ortiz isn't, he's not a top 10 fighter anymore. Anyways, that's the top 10 welterweights from Andy Emilio for ES News.